as a senior member of the business school, I report to the Dean, and one of the objectives I have is to deploy wherever possible our own faculty on our programmes. So that's our first port of call. If a client comes to us and they have a particular need, and we know we've got someone on the faculty who's world class in that particular area and is available, then that would be the first choice that we would use for someone to be involved, either to teach on a programme or to help us design the programme. If it's not possible to source anyone internally, then we have a group of adjunct faculty that we go to who, although they're not on the payroll of the institution, have worked with us for many years. So that mixture of internal and external people would be how we pull a team together to design a programme to meet a client's needs. The key role in that is someone that we call the programme director. So that person would work alongside a commercial person, the business development staff within executive education, to understand the client's need, put together a design. If there's a proposal and a pitch process, that would be a combination of the commercial person working with the programme director. And should we be awarded the work, then that programme director would typically be involved in the classroom delivery. They may be teaching themselves, or they may be in a facilitating, coordinating role. So it's a sort of a mixed economy that we use at Henley.
When it comes to new programmes and new short courses, whether they're accredited or non-accredited executive education, we use academics and we use the company. Together they decide what they want to be taught. We use the academics to put the academic content in, but the actual structure is decided by the company.
So within Alliance Manchester Business School, we have a team called the Executive Development Centre. Within that, we have business development, program administration, and a team called Learning Solutions, who are academics. They're on full academic contracts. There's about 6 of them, and they typically lead at the bid stage, because most of our work is won by bidding. 85% of our work is tendered. So they will typically be heavily involved or lead the bid that wins the contract, and then they will then become the program director, the academic director of delivery of the program. They then work closely with academics from the divisions, i.e. the main part of the business school that's concerned with all our other teaching, and also we have a pool of adjuncts of various capabilities.
So we use various methods to encourage staff to participate in executive education. First of all, we do have a very complex and yet simple workload model, which allows all staff to undertake enterprise activities, of which executive education is one of those. So it's embedded in a workload. The second thing we have in the school, across the entire university, which benefits the business school, is we have profiling of contracts. So we have staff who are on teaching and research profiles, who are predominantly research active and will undertake research projects and write referable papers. And then we have staff who are on teaching and scholarly practice, professional practice profiles. And their jobs really is to do the more sort of scholarly type activities, which includes executive education. So within both of these profiles, there's capability to go up and progress. So we will have chairs of professional practice, we'll have chairs of teaching and learning, equally we'll have chairs of research. So as an academic on a permanent contract at Lincoln, you can progress your career across various pathways, and 2 of them will support lots of executive education work.
We have a workload system, which is the baseline system. And so long as you've fulfilled your 1540 hours in the workload system, you can then be paid to do executive education and indeed global MBA teaching and indeed consultancy and so on. So there's a baseline. So the workload allocation model manages the baseline, and then that tells us who can be paid to do extra over. Some people do executive education on their workload. In fact, I do executive education on my workload.
We also give an allowance to staff whose workload may be exceeded if they do this sort of education delivery. So so that if a cost of a program is 5,000, then we give we are capped or top sliced by 60%. So the remaining 40% stays in the business school, And of that 40%, we give the academic 10%. And that money is put into a special code for them. And they can either have it in a research account or they can have it in a teaching and scholarly practice account. And they can draw on that to sort of complement their research activities, to go to conferences, and in some cases they use their money to sort of spend it on student experience, actually going on field trips, or sometimes it's just going overseas. So we allow them to benefit from this engagement with this sort of education through multiple facets.
So I have a priority to try and use internal faculty, but obviously internal faculty aren't going to give their time for free. Faculty have their own targets to achieve in terms of research. So to some faculty, exec head can be a bit of a distraction. But where someone values contact with industry, has the skills to teach in a classroom, then I'll be keen to use them on our executive education programs. And there we have an arrangement where we can buy their consulting time. So as in most institutions, University of Reading, which is where Henley Business School sits, our faculty have a number of days consulting time that they can sell either as individuals, or they can sell to other organisations, or they can sell to executive education. So I can buy that extra discretionary time from them, and they can have remuneration on top of their normal salary for that work. For some faculty that do a lot of executive education, their work might be, for executive education, might be included within their workload. So they won't get an extra payment, but effectively what I do in my department is I pay the academic department they come from for the use of that faculty member's time. So there's a budgeting process that goes on where I can either buy internal faculty onto exec ed programs, or I can buy people, externals onto programs, and that of course will be through a normal contracting process.
So one thing we have learnt is you cannot make every single member of academic staff participate in this. For those academics who really feel comfortable and feel confident about working with businesses, we'll work with them on their presentation, on their delivery style, and then they can sort of go out and sort of deliver programs for us. For those academics who would like to do it, but we're not quite sure if they're quite up to it, we give them a lot of support and guidance, and then when we're comfortable that they can deliver the way a company would want, then we will sort of let them loose. The sort of skills we're really looking for are academics that can sort of cross boundaries, that don't talk down to companies, that don't spend too much time, or if any time at all, talking about their wonderful research, even though it is wonderful, but actually talk about the problems and the challenges that the company is facing, or the employer is facing, or the employee, and what are they going to do to help them solve it. So it's really a responsive academic is what we're looking for. The one thing about external engagement and executive education is you have to be flexible. Things never quite run smoothly. You have to understand that, you know, it's not a 9 to 5 element. There will be twilight teaching, there'll be weekend teaching. So you need that flexibility from that person as well.
When it comes to employees within executive education, there's different kinds of people that we would use. As in most business schools, executive education falls into two areas. One basic area is what we would call open programs, so that could be short non-qualification programs, or programs that carry a degree. So for example, at Henley we have an MSc in coaching. So that's one side of the business, and that's a product sell. So generally speaking, the business development people for open programs are selling a fixed product. It's a place on an MSc in coaching, or a place on a leadership program, or a place on a strategy program. So that's a product sell, and the people who are good in that environment are the kind of folk that can talk to an individual and understand the individual's needs, and then persuade them that Henley is the right place to come for their education. On the other side of the business, which we would generally call custom or tailored programs, then it's more of a consultative sell. So the kinds of people that work well in that environment would perhaps in another life would be working in a consultancy. They would need to spend time with our clients, understand the organisation's needs, put forward ideas, design programs from scratch, so there isn't a core product that's being sold. In a sense, what they're selling is more of a service, and that is a different kind of person. They need to have commercial acumen, because they need to be able to negotiate, they need to be able to understand budgets and agree prices with clients. whereas the people working on the open program side will be selling a fixed product pretty much at a fixed price.
One of the things we want to do is get much more of our research into the executive classroom. Yeah, so improving the connectivity with research. And it's very notable, all our big successful programs are research based. So we do work where we've got world-renowned research expertise.
So we have 2 academic contracts in place. As I've said earlier, we have 2 profiles on the permanent. You're a permanent academic, you're either on a research and teaching profile or a teaching and scholarly practice profile. These are standard T's and C's and are linked towards the union agreements. And then running alongside that, we have associate lecturers or hourly paid lecturers, I think in some universities, and I think they're also called adjunct staff. And again, these are linked to the union requirements, but there's a lot more flexibility. We've recently changed this institutionally. So now our flexible staff have a committed 6 hours per year, and then we will increase it, or we will never go below 6 hours a year. So we don't have zero-based contracts here. We will go up and we'll pay them per contract as a piece of work comes in. What we pay them to do is the delivery. We rarely ever pay for the creation of the module or the content. That tends to fall into the academic side of things. If we had to, we would pay them. For example, there are some specialist areas we don't have in the business school, and we will then pay an external consultant to come in and work with us on this.
So when it comes to external contractors, then I have to work with my procurement colleagues, and we've designed an executive education contributors contract, which is different from the normal consulting type contract or supplier contract that the university would use, because the contract needs to reflect the unique work they do on executive education courses. So I would also like to have, and do have in these supplier contracts, a schedule of rates, so that if I'm buying someone's time who's an external contractor, I know how much it's going to cost for me to use them on a program. So that schedule of rates is included in that contract. We also include things like intellectual property protection, confidentiality clauses, so that when we're talking to our clients, we know that when we're using external adjunct faculty for our programs, that the contract that we have with the client is then rolled down to our suppliers.